Well, hello, Freedomizers. Welcome to Zone 13, the best afternoon news show on the web. Today's Thursday, July 9th, 2015. It's 3 o'clock on the East Coast. It's noon Pacific. We're broadcasting live from the studios of FreedomizerRadio.com. I'm Joanne Moretti, and Scott Ferrarello, my great co-host, is with me too, and we appreciate you tuning in. Our chat rooms, both at Blog Talk Radio and, of course, right here at FreedomizerRadio.com, are open for you. Several of our colleagues, including Lynn, AstroTurf, maybe Famous Ann is around over there in the chats, putting all the links, documents, and other important information in there so you have them all for your own records. And thank you for that courtesy, ladies. Remember, they're also journalists, analysts, and researchers, too, the best in the business, might I add. We have a lot of news and updates to get to today, but first I have to do a short disclaimer just to let anybody know that whatever's said on this show is solely my responsibility and not that of our wonderful hosts or sponsors. The disclaimer goes like this. The comments made by hosts, guests, chat commentators, or phone callers of Zone 13 do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints, ideology, beliefs, or anything else of FreedomizerRadio.com, their sponsors, or our many valued advertisers, whether it be past, present, and even future broadcasts. All right, now that that's out of the way, let me open up Scott's microphone here. We'll give him a proper welcome, and then we'll get this show started. Hello, Scott.
Hey, how you doing, Joanne?
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Scott Ferrarello, my awesome co-host. Hey, my friend. Boy, it's been a busy news cycle, huh?
When isn't it?
I don't know, man. Everything's just breaking everywhere. It's all broken, all of it. Anything you want to bring up before we jump in?
No. Just quit picking on white people, okay?
Quit picking on the white people.
Sick of it.
Why?
Yeah.
It's that olive skin, huh?
It's all it is. You know, it's all it is. It's just demonize white people, you know, so he can move into the minorities, into white neighborhoods, so they can victimize them, and the police will turn the other cheek and won't even, consider it.
Yeah, this is absolutely it's oppressive now. Okay, yeah, everybody gets it. Sure, there was racism, but you know what? When you're listening to all these creeps. But when you listen to all these creeps, you think it's like rampant all over the place. But when you look out your door, the blacks, the whites, the Hispanics, the Asians are all getting along just fine. Just not in the city where all the Soros money's being spent to create oppressive situations for white people now. And I'm sorry, man, but come on, you got to be real here. We understand the whole black plight and everything, but when you start erasing history and desecrating graves, now you got problems, all right? No matter what flag you take down, no matter how much pressure you put on Trump, it's still not going to erase the history of this United States. These people are acting like ISIS now. ISIS is running rampant over the Middle East, smashing, artifacts and paintings and churches and statues and everything. That's exactly what's going on here. What have we devolved into? We made great progress along the racial front. But now we have gone back to being complete idiots, and it's all reversing, and white people are being oppressed with the blessing of the United States government. Is this what equality looks like? Or revenge? Or some political Alinsky tactic that actually was magnificently played? If you like Alinsky, let me tell you something. You couldn't have done better than this one. Got half the country in an uproar, labeling them as racist, trying to desecrate graves. Are you kidding me? In Memphis, Tennessee, they're trying to dig up this old war general's grave and his wife. I mean, so now we're desecrating graves? We've lost our mind. We've absolutely lost our mind with that. Let me tell you something. You're not going to do anything about history, all right? Quit living in the past. There's no future in it. And when it calls, hang up on it. It's got nothing new to say either. But, when you got war generals, listen to this story by Joe Newby. I'm just going to read a paragraph. Late Tuesday, the Memphis, Tennessee City Council voted unanimously to dig up the remains of Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest and his wife. The council also voted to remove a statue placed in Forrest's honor. The move came after Mayor A.C. Horton called for the bodies to be dug up and relocated. How damn dare you? What's next? We going to start digging up Apaches and Hopi Indians and stuff? There's a reason I'm saying that, by the way.
This is scary. This is beyond scary, because this is what they did in the Third Reich. This is what they do when they decide that they're going to kill off a large segment of the population. They have to demonize the people first. You know, that is what Hitler did to the Jews. They're not human. They're less than you. You know, they have to be eliminated because these scumbags are. Now MTV comes out with a show, you know, of what white people did to destroy America, and they got white people on TV, white liberals with guilt, crying, "Oh, I can't believe we did this. We're so horrible."
You know, well, how about
you know what? We built this country. That's what white people did. They built this country.
Yeah, and blacks helped, and Italians helped, and whites helped, and Irish helped, the Chinese helped. We built railroads. We did all of it together. Now, none of us ever had a slave, and none of us ever were a slave. None of us got asked what race you want to be. I have olive-colored skin. You know damn well there's not a thing I can do about it, and neither can anybody else out there. You get what you get, all right? Gender and race are two things that are completely beyond your control, or Obama's, or Alinsky's, or no amount of Soros bucks is going to change it. You can even go down and get a sex change if you want to, but it's not going to change your chromosomes. Sorry for the reality slap here, but it's about time somebody starts talking real. Now, as far as
when they decide they want to eliminate a certain type of group, or allow the ones to be just victimized and murdered without any justice, that's what they do. They have to demonize them first. And this has been going on now, you know, for a long time, ever since he got in there.
Not only are they demonizing us, they're brainwashing us. They're telling us that we're not exceptional. Yeah, you tell me how a 200-year-old country has done better than any 1,000-year-old countries in the world. All right? Yes, damn well we are exceptional. We have better work ethics. We work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, not 3 days a week, 5 hours a day, and take 6 weeks vacation. Now, Politico wants us to be more like Europeans. All right? Aren't those the same people that they hate? They're screaming about our ancestors being Europeans, but they want us to be more like Europeans. Listen to this story if you want to know how twisted it is. Let's see here. Politico magazine says that they published this amazing racist and culturally bigoted article. All right, I'm just going to give you an excerpt here. It says, the United States would be much less exceptional in general, and in particular more like other English-speaking democracies, such as Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, were it not for the effect on U.S. politics and culture of the American South. I don't mean this in a good way. A lot of the traits that make the United States exceptional these days are undesirable, like higher violence, less social mobility. Many of these differences can be attributed largely to the South. Minus the South, the rest of the U.S. probably would be more like Canada or Australia or Britain or New Zealand, more secular, more socially liberal, more moderate in the tone of its politics, and somewhat more generous in social policy. And it would not be as centralized as France or as social democratic as Sweden. Listen, Politico, we are not any of those countries that you mentioned. We are the United States. What are you going to do? Cut off the South in Georgia and kick it to Cuba? Or Virginia? Give me a damn break. People, you got to wake up. Now you're going to let them tear apart your country? We're digging up graves, for crying out loud. You're going to let them tear apart your country? You want to split up this union? You want to turn it into all tribal regions? Put your immigrants here and your immigrants there, and nobody speaks English and nobody communicates? You know, Obama's got a big cool idea. He's going to move everybody into the suburbs and flood them with city people because he thinks we got to be more diverse. But those are only in particular areas that he thinks should be more diverse. Areas such as St. Paul, Minnesota. All right? That's a complete Somali enclave to the point where there was articles from some Somalis who were praising how transformed St. Paul, Minnesota has become. It's all Muslims there now, black Muslims from Africa, the Somalis. And they're saying now they don't have to worry about learning English because everybody around them speaks the same language. They don't have to worry about learning anything about America because all these benefits are being brought to them. Even when they go to school, they don't have to learn English. They will bring a translator for your child to go to school. All right, so we're setting up tribal regions. Mark my words, America, you are making very grave mistakes. Very, very, very grave mistakes. When you allow your history to be taken from you, to be destroyed, to be villainized, you know damn well where we came from. Not all history is good, but it's still history. Let me tell you something. You are robbing your children. You are stealing from them right in their face. You don't want them to know about the South? You don't want them to know about the Civil War? You don't want them to know about our founding fathers? Then you are the culprit. You are the enemy of this country. And you're the enemy of your own children.
This is globalism. This is world citizens. You got to destroy everybody's history. You got to destroy everybody's traditions. You got to destroy everybody's heritage, basically. Nobody's exceptional. Everybody's the same. That's what the TPP is going to be about. American workers are going to have to compete with what they're paying people in Vietnam. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah, well, they tell you everybody's the same until you look at the skin. Then nobody's the same. They're making me dizzy, Scott. They're making me dizzy. The whole world is upside down.
Yeah, it is. And it's, until there's a collapse and until these people get thrown in jail or something, it's never going to change. It's going to get 1,000 times worse.
Yeah.
And
I got 2 comments on that desecrating graves thing. Kelshu posted them. She says that, first off, the Tennessee Historic Commission and City Council have absolutely no say or vote in regards to this grave. Only his closest next of kin has the absolute authority over the grave, even if it's on public land. Touch that grave without written permission from the verified next of kin, and the city won't be able to afford the lawsuits. Yeah, well, until they badger and beat and abuse and humiliate and go after the next of kin like Donald Trump, for instance. And then, we're going to have to support those people. And then it says the ones trying to do this in Tennessee will have a legal problem. They're breaking Tennessee state law. Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam has recently signed into law the Heritage Protection Act. This law, which applies to the entire state and all cities, prohibits the renaming, removal, or relocating of any military monument or item, such as a statue or flag display, or park that includes the streets and school names or any other item honoring a military unit or person. And it's effective as of April 1st, 2013. But now they got a whole new city council in there, and they may change this law. So we got to stay on that, too. But can you imagine digging up an old war soldier and his wife's grave? What are you going to do, throw their ashes in the landfill? And on what authority?
They probably will. And that's where a lot of American soldiers' bodies go, too, in a landfill. They don't tell you that.
Yeah, well, I'm really upset.
They do.
Now, up in, where is it? I think it's Oklahoma. Yeah, Oklahoma State Capitol. The 10 Commandments. The Supreme Court ruled that those 10 Commandments have to be taken off that property. Well, Oklahoma is fighting that. But, you know what else is going on? That nobody's complaining about at all? In Detroit, a satanic temple,
statue of Satan.
a bronze Baphomet, 9-foot-tall bronze Baphomet. The satanic temple said the statue is intended to complement and contrast the 10 Commandment monuments that resides in Oklahoma State Capitol grounds. The temple said that the event will serve as a call to arms to kick off a fight in the name of individual rights to exercise against self-serving theocrats. So now you got the satanic cult erecting a 9-foot-tall monument because they don't like the 10 Commandments in Oklahoma. This is in Detroit. They don't like the 10 Commandments in Oklahoma. What the hell business is theirs and what goes on in Oklahoma if they're in Detroit? Detroit doesn't have enough problems?
Because in Oklahoma, they did the same thing. They erected a statue like that. They did
Yeah.
it first in Oklahoma, and now they're doing it elsewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this one's Detroit, but Detroit's not in enough bad straits so that they're gonna just bring on more bad juju. Good luck. Good luck, Detroit. But in the meantime, they're fighting to take down the Ten Commandments. They're going to fight to take this down, too, once they take the Ten Commandments out. Or are they going to leave that there? Give me a break, folks. What the hell's going on, America?
They are going. They can do that. They can destroy everything Christian, and they can put up everything anti-Christian.
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
They do.
That's another thing I'm sick of, is the attacks on the Christians. We have turned into an oppressive society. They're oppressing white people. They're oppressing Christians. They're oppressing business people. They're oppressing your history.
Yeah. But especially
they're removing every single part of America that has anything to do with America. You know they're coming out. You know, all this capitulation to them. Everybody's running, oh, boo-hoo. It's an organized tactic. Change.org. And Soros' money is getting spent on this. Like I said, what do you think? Soros is kidding? He's not spending billions and billions of dollars remaking our society because he feels like blowing millions and billions of dollars. He's doing it because he plays to keep. Just like he did with the Bank of England. Just like he did with the Bank of Greece just recently. He shorted Greece for the last 6 months. He was betting on them failing, and then he facilitated failing them. He's making a fortune on that. He's making billions as we speak. Now, he overthrew the Ukrainian government, the Crimean government, in an orange revolution. He's had his
England. I mean,
yeah.
You know.
He's been throwing revolutions in Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Kenya, and everything. All these orange democratic movement, and they're all color coded. His color revolution. You know, today I saw a commercial on Fox for SafeNet or something that you store your stuff in. Join the revolution. Join the revolution. Join the revolution. It was repetitive. It was like brainwashing, this commercial. Join the revolution.
Yeah, it is. What do you think programming is? Television programming. Repetition sells. That's why people like crappy music, because they've heard it enough, and it's because out of repetition they like it.
Yeah, well, these people are idiots. This is not a revolution. What you're seeing is a move towards communism, to oppression, towards globalism. Let me tell you. I mean, the UN and BRICS and Obama and Putin all in meetings together. Remember that picture I showed you, Scott, of Putin standing in the sun by himself away from the rest of the crowd? The Queen was coming down the stairs, and everybody was behind her but helping her. They were in service to her, but not Putin. Putin was off to the side. Check out this story. Obama was opening the pathway for the United States to cooperate with BRICS and abdicating power to BRICS and the United Nations. Denise wrote this today. She goes on, she says that Russian President Vladimir Putin has met with the leaders of emerging powers in the Russian city of Ufa for a summit widely seen as an attempt by Moscow to show it's not isolated, despite its standoff with the West over the conflicts in the Ukraine. So Putin's holding his own. Now, you know BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Well, they adopted a declaration expressing deep concern about the deadly conflict in the eastern Ukraine. Well, now they got documents that are calling on both sides to abide by a ceasefire, and including Obama. So he's capitulating to them. He doesn't care which global order he turns us over to. You know, if Putin's taking over the UN, then so be it. He'll hand us over to them. You see what's going on here? BRICS is not a separate bank. And as a matter of fact, Obama's trying to hook us up with BRICS now. So he's turning us over to the communist Russians.
You know, they just instead of the Federal Reserve in the country, they want it globally now. Everybody knows that. Well, maybe not everybody, but you know, that's what it's all going to. World Bank, and they all own it. I mean, Goldman Sachs started BRICS, Everybody keeps
Yep.
saying, "Oh, BRICS is going to save us from the NWO." No, BRICS is the NWO. Okay, they're just another. They're just owned by the same people.
Soros.
I mean,
Again,
even
Soros.
if
Soros.
you go to the BRICS website, it says plan for 2050. They got a plan all the way up to 2050, and it's from Goldman Sachs website.
Yeah,
BRICS
see?
Bank.
Yeah, well, Soros has had a big interest in Brazil for a long time. He even bought into Petrobras, their state oil company. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's just move on because we got so much more of this coming up. You know, there's a bunch of strange things that have been going on. Wednesday, of course, yesterday, you know that the New York Stock Exchange and United Airlines and the Wall Street Journal were all taken down by unexpected technical glitches. Anybody buy that? I hope not, because you're getting screwed if you do. China, there was a full-blown stock market crash. It's still unfolding, as a matter of fact. And then, you know, hackers were able to hack into a German surface-to-air missile battery. I bet you nobody even heard that. But they were able to get into it and play around. You know, guys, you know, Obama, the other day, he told people that we were speeding up training of ISIL forces. And they said, oh, well, that was a blooper, and we fixed it in the transcript. He was supposed to say Iraq. No, it was written. The guy was standing there reading it. And he hesitated, and then he said ISIL, and then he continued speaking. Okay, so he knew what he was saying. When he hesitated, he wasn't sure he should say it, but he said it anyhow. So that's a signal, ladies and gentlemen. It may not have been intended for you to hear, and they're going to play it off with plausible deniability, but whoever was intended to hear that, I assure you, they heard it. Unreal. Then,
I know.
You know, there's just so much going on. We got a judge down in Brownsville, Judge Hannon, who is ordering the whole DHS, including Jay Johnson, into his court if they don't have a good explanation on why they defied a court order telling them you cannot issue more work permits. You are not the Congress. You cannot write laws. You cannot change laws. You can enforce the laws, but you can't change them. So Obama just, you know, smiled and said, it's just a court. And he did it anyhow. Well, the evidence come out, and they admitted it, and they said, oh, it was a mistake. It was no mistake. We told you here on this show that the Friday before Judge Hannon gave his original order, that the DHS employees were told to go home and start using their home computers and put as many of those illegals' information into that computer as quickly as they can before that Monday order. They were even let go early on Friday so they could race home and get to work on stuff in the computers. Now, once those people were in the computer, they automatically get a status called pending. So they were not included in this. But after the deadline and after the ruling, DHS put 2,000 more in past the deadline. And that's the 2,000 in question, not the 20,000, 40,000, or 100,000 that they got in over the weekend, but the 2,000 that were after the court order. So the judge says, well, you know, you got until June 30th to tell me what the hell is going on. So they came back and they said, well, you know, it was a mistake. So, and he gave them another order and said, July 31st, you better have all the paperwork in order. Tell me what happened and what you did to correct these things. Otherwise, I want everybody here August 9th, including you, Jay Johnson. So, you know, I predict that they're going to resolve this. And they're going to say, oh, boo-hoo, and, you know, they're going to say, let them get away with it as usual. But, you know, here they are giving out these guest visas and work visas and all of that stuff. Now, Microsoft came out and laid off 7,800 employees worldwide. You all heard about that last week. Well, now they're screaming and flipping out and paying for legislation and greasing politicians so that we can have more of those guest visas. the H-1B visas. Well, think about that for a second. Altogether, there was 18,000 layoffs that the company made between now and last year. So if they're laying off people, why are they fighting for more guest workers? It sounds to me like they got too many people already. So what about those 18,000 people that lost their jobs at Microsoft? And they're going to be replaced by illegals. And
just like what Disney
H-1B
did.
visas and foreign employees.
And Disney said, hey, if you want your severance pay, you're going to train your replacements. Hey,
that's what's going on with Microsoft too. Only 18,000 of them.
Right, they do it everywhere.
They
now.
shed 1/5, 20% of their workforce in the past couple of years. So why do they need the H-1B foreign guest worker permits? There's nobody among those 18,000 that can fill any job that might be available. So it sounds to me like they have an excess of employees, not a shortage. Why are they demanding bringing more foreigners into this country?
Because it's all to take away the jobs from white people, those evil white people that ruined America, and give it all to foreigners.
Unbelievable. I can't even, I don't know how many times I can say unbelievable. So now, while we're talking about foreigners, let's talk about Trump for a second, because I'm a little tired of this, too. Donald Trump spoke the truth, but there is a complete, orchestrated, organized, and very well carried out tactic agenda going on with this man. Both parties, by the way, but mostly Change.org. You know that's Soros. Also Amnesty International and La Raza. Again, Soros. I told you, folks, he's not spending this money because he's a nice guy. He's spending it to fundamentally transform the United States. So now he's going after Trump. Well, Trump fired back. Ulsterman put out a DC Whispers. And it says how CNN went live with the following headline this morning as a follow-up to a similar headline yesterday after the initial DC Whispers report on the subject was published. Story comes out, Trump can't guarantee legal status of his own workers. The far-left Daily Beast had this to say, Trump Tower was built on undocumented immigrants' backs. And the Business Insider blared this headline, immigrants with questionable legal status are reportedly helping to build Donald Trump's new luxury hotel. Well, Donald Trump said, oh, I'm glad you told me that. Give me their names, and I'll fire them right now. And the media went, whoa, no, we're not going to give you their names. We're going to protect the illegals and stuff. So you're telling me, according to Trump says, you're telling me that I have illegals working on a job site, but you're not going to tell me who they are. So why'd you bring it up? So you want to degrade me with this, and you know damn well I don't know that there's illegals, but I will find out, and then I'm going to fire them all. Thank you for the heads up. The media lost their mind. Ladies and gentlemen, he did it perfectly. He threw it right back in their lap. That's what you got to do. It worked. They shut up. There's a chef who signed a 10-year lease with this new building that's getting built in New York. The name of his business is Think Food. Well, of course, Change.org and all the petitioners and everybody, they went through Trump's business accounts and figured out who he does business with, and they found their chef. Well, they put a lot of pressure on him. So the chef come out and publicly said, I'm going to have to back out of the contract because I can't, in good graces, put a ethnic restaurant there under the circumstances of what Trump said. Trump's son come out and said, well, you want to cancel this contract, you go right ahead. You signed a 10-year contract. You're going to be spending an awful lot of money because we're going to sue you. And that's what he said to every one of them. But there's another thing that we have to talk about with Trump. So don't anybody all jump on his bandwagon. I love what Trump's doing. Don't get me wrong. Only these pinhead politicians we have could turn Donald Trump into the underdog. They said to him, they accused him of donating to Democrats. He said, I'm in business in New York. It's all Democrats. If I don't donate to them, you think I'd be doing business in New York? You know how Democrats are. So they shut up about that, too.
Well, yeah, you know what? But why was he donating to Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid? Is he doing stuff in Nevada and California as well? San Francisco?
No. Well, he might. He might be. Yeah, he's got hotels in Vegas and stuff. Yeah.
Bothers me.
And he's got.
I don't care. If I was a billionaire, I wouldn't give them a nickel because you know what? I really wouldn't need money that bad to sell out my principles. You know.
Yeah. Well, this is over the course.
Has anybody got principles anymore?
Well, this is over the course of becoming a billionaire. Remember, he was bankrupt before, and he come out of bankruptcy, even better. But, yeah, you got to grease these politicians. You think anybody in any one of these cities does business unless they grease the politicians? You know, it's time for people to wake up to the real world. You know, it's not all roses and unicorns out there.
I'll give them a pass for greasing them in New York, but greasing them in Nevada and San Francisco, no.
Well, how you gonna build Trump Casino in Las Vegas without greasing Harry Reid?
He's not good with casinos. He should stick to the hotel business because every casino he opens, it goes bankrupt. I mean, Atlantic City, you know, it's just I don't know how you lose money with a casino, except when you're trying to impress people by putting too much money into what it looks like instead of just robbing people blind what it's intended to do.
And how about all these world-class golf courses he builds all over the place, like the one in San Francisco? You think that got built without greasing Nancy Pelosi or Dianne Feinstein? I don't think so. All right.
I don't know. I just wouldn't sell out my principles to make $1. I wouldn't. Especially if I was rich. If I didn't, if I wasn't starving to death, I would not go out of my way to give those freaking vultures one thin dime.
You wouldn't be a billionaire if you didn't.
Oh well. I just have to somehow make a living on $890,000. When's enough? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, but you have the right to make the money. But this was before he was in politics, and he was a businessman. And you gotta compromise with these politicians. You aren't gonna get anywhere, and that is the way of the world. So once we realize it, we can fix it. But I'm glad it was brought up because now we can fix it. Here he is. He said, "Yeah, you got to pay to play with these politicians." So I'm sure it's Republicans too. But he said, I had to pay them. I was going to do business in New York if I didn't.
That is, think about that. That's all illegal bribery. They're taking bribes.
Mm-hmm. Every day.
These politicians didn't go in there to take bribes so certain businesses that bribe can get special treatment and this and that. But now, it happens all the time. Well, you got to grease them. You got to grease them. You think anything ever gets done without greasing them? We just make it okay because, what are we going to do?
But think about the big problem he just exposed. Donald Trump is not going to be the president.
If I was
all right, they're going to destroy him before they'd let him be president. Are you kidding me?
If I was Donald Trump, I would have had a hidden camera on me, and I would have went in. I'd say, because maybe someday I wanted to run for president, and I'd say, look what happened when I tried to go get a permit for this business I wanted to create. Look at the politicians shaking me down for a bribe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he could have really done some good. Now here's your bribe. Now give me my casino permit, okay?
Mm-hmm. Look at Al Sharpton. He's running around shaking down banks. Eric Holder shaking down banks. Obama himself.
And that's why having a lawless
society the way it does.
Sucks.
That's exactly what it is. It's lawless. It's corrupt. It's nepotism and favoritism. Look at Baltimore. That's just a little tiny picture of what the big picture is. So, yeah, that's the way of the world. And he just exposed it. But, see, I'm thinking Donald Trump is doing us all a favor. He's bringing up all these things. We know damn well he's not going to be president. But it's about time we started talking about those things, including greasing the politicians, including hiring illegals, firing illegals, We got to be talking about illegal immigration. At least Trump is bringing it up. He's pissing everybody off. You know, and like I said, Donald Trump.
Him. You know, at least he's pissing people off. And that's
what
you need. These milquetoast wussies like Ted Cruz and these guys that are too afraid to say anything. Oh, I better not say that. Oh, I better not slam Mexicans. I better not do this. I better not do that. You know, they're so afraid of offending the establishment. Boy, if I wanted to be elected, I'd be wanting to piss off the establishment as much as I could.
Well, Donald Trump's doing a good job of it, but I got something else to tell you. You know, I mean, when I'm telling you that he's the front man, he is. He's playing a team sport. For 7+ years, we have been talking about race and gender until you want to puke on it. You've been force-fed it for 7 years or more. Actually, more, because it was during the campaign. Everything was race, or gender, whether it's gay marriage or transsexuals, or whether it's Confederate flag or Lives Matter. Race and gender for 7 years. In the meantime, the Middle East is on fire. Where stocks are in the toilet. We've been giving them $87 billion a month. And Yellen just said yesterday, in the morning, before that stock market crash, that, you know, she's not going to be putting that $87 billion in forever. We don't need the stimulus anymore. Unemployment is wonderful. So that freaked everybody out. Okay, yeah, we did have a crash yesterday. It wasn't a glitch. They don't stop trading unless it's down 500 points. Now they're blaming China because China is bleeding right now. China's stock market is crashing. So they're saying, well, yeah, they hacked our stock market just so, you know, the rest of the world wouldn't know about it. Well, come on. Everybody's got a computer. You don't need the actual stock market anymore. You could still do trading. So that was a lie. It wasn't China. We transitioned probably over to SDRs yesterday instead of in September like we expected. The stock market did crash. It was a flash crash. And that's the truth. All right? It wasn't a hacking. And, you know, they got Anonymous to blame it on and China to blame it on and whatever, but it's all BS.
They were blaming North Korea. Give
North Korea.
A break.
Yeah, nobody bought that, so they shut their mouths. Yeah, they changed their mind about...
from CIA, I mean CNN headline news. So it must be true. What a crock.
No, we should talk about all these other subjects, though. We need to talk about the poorest borders. We need to talk about Iran, because this Iran deal is something else. Before we get to that, though, I want to tell you that British nationals are being urged to leave Tunisia. So that they're saying that there's an attack highly likely. So if you're Brit, get the hell out of Tunisia. And if you're anything else, you should probably get out of Tunisia, too. You saw how well it went staying hanging back in Benghazi, right? When the Brits leave, maybe you should leave, too.
Why would you be in Tunisia to begin with? That's what I'm having a problem with.
Well, they have minerals, and they have
on a
ports,
vacation.
and they have they have vacation.
You know, they never...
Yeah.
All right. Whatever.
Let's talk about this Iran deal, because you all know, right? Iran already has a bomb. You should know that, right? They may not have the missile delivery system yet, but they're working on that. So if you go under the impression that Iran already has the bomb, then you might want to think a little bit bigger about what's going on in Iran. Now, they've been extending this deadline. All right, today, John Kerry came out, and he said, well, it's not open-ended. So somebody said, well, when's the deadline? They said, well, we're not going to wait forever. Oh, so it is open-ended. So they're really not dealing with Iran for a nuclear weapon, because they know damn well Iran already has it. Yeah, I think, and others think, that Obama and this administration is trying to turn Iran into a world superpower. They're giving them everything they possibly could want. Iran is trying to rebuild the Persian Empire. We know that. Now, the Saudis were our friends, the Jordanians were our friends, the Egyptians were our friends, the Israelis were our friends. Well, they're not our friends anymore. Obama has completely turned his back on our allies for Iran. Why would that be? Our base in Ramadi in Iraq is now under the command of Suleiman, who is the main general for the Iran Revolutionary Guard. He's the big shot, the grand poobah of the military. That's like hiring MacArthur. He's over there. He's in command of our base in Ramadi. So our U.S. military is under the command of Suleiman, who is still officially listed as enemy, although that's been suspended because of these talks. What are we doing that the United States military is under the command of an Iranian? So that tells you there's more to these Iranian talks. He has given them back 30,000 tons of gold. He has lifted the sanctions. He has given them other monies. Remember the $9 million and then the $16 million to keep them going. So now Iran is completely out of debt. They are now a world economy, and they're going to be a superpower if they aren't already. Why would Obama allow that? Who's he working for? And then he had a meeting with Putin, a conference call or something. And Putin was in a meeting with the Iranians when that conference call happened. So Putin's in these talks too.
Oh,
Guys.
you can count on it.
And then Putin comes out, and he's the head of BRICS. And now Obama wants us to become part of BRICS. So we're just going to get rid of what? The IMF, the World Bank, what? The Federal Reserve? And then we're just going to be BRICS?
They're getting rid of the Federal Reserve. Yeah, they're getting rid of the Federal Reserve, and it's going to a global central bank. No need for central banks in everybody's individual countries anymore. They've raked that dry. Now they can all do it from one centralized global power. It's exactly what it's just, it's just the Federal Reserve on steroids is all it is.
Right. Yeah, well, it's getting mighty nasty. It's getting real nasty out there. And then you got the Rockefellers. They spent millions to make this Iran deal happen. So, again, with the globalists, advocating for an Iran truce is a loose coalition of peace groups, think tanks, and former high-ranking U.S. diplomats bound together by millions of dollars given by the Rockefeller family through its $870 million Rockefeller Brothers Fund. The philanthropy, which is run by a board split between family members and outsiders, has spent $4.3 million since 2003 promoting a nuclear pact with Iran, chiefly through the New York-based Iran Project. And that's led by some former diplomats. So, there you go. The Rockefeller has given $3.3 million to Plowshares Fund, and that's a San Francisco-based disarmament group. It spent $4 million since 2010 to promote a deal with Iran and shepherded the peace groups and think tanks it supports to back Obama. So here you go. You got the Rockefellers backing Obama and this Iran deal. So that's why we're not ending these talks, because these people are obligated. Didn't we just talk about greasing them? When you grease them, you own them. If they're taking your money, you own them.
Henry Kissinger is a direct, minion of David Rockefeller, and he was all for Obama getting in there. And George Soros is basically a minion of Henry Kissinger, and he's all for Obama getting in it. They're all on one team. That's they're.
Yeah.
And
they are all on one team.
Brzezinski spent his life pretending to hate Russia. Well, I really don't think so.
No.
I don't believe any of it.
I don't either. I don't believe any of this. And this is globalization. I don't know what we're going to do, folks. But we are being handed over lock, stock, and barrel to this global order. We are at the precipice of completely losing our sovereignty. Why do you think they're erasing our history? They don't even want you to know about the Founding Fathers either. They don't want you writing in cursively. They're not even teaching your kids how to write in cursively. So the kids can't even read our founding documents if they tried. It might as well be in hieroglyphics.
There's going to be no founding documents. There's going to be they've already got UN Constitution type thing written. It's all, you should see this thing. You know, it's just communism, basically, global
They got
communism.
the UN flag flying over the Alamo.
And I've been telling everybody, too, that they're taking this away from, they're going to eventually get it away from the monetary system. It's all going to go to an ecosystem, energy-based money system.
Bio.
And what did the Pope just come out and say? He wants a new world order, energy, eco-based economic system.
Yeah, that Pope is scaring me,
that.
man. This Pope is scaring me. I think they got the real Pope sedated or something. You know.
No, he died a long
Pope Benedict is still alive. Since when do you throw out the old Pope who didn't even do anything bad and put in this guy? And he's a globalist and a climatist, and you know that's another
Marxist.
thing too. Let's talk about climate for a second, because I got to ask a question for everybody. How is handing your money over to Al Gore, Obama, the UN, Soros going to change the climate? It's not. The only thing it's going to change is your wallet, your living conditions, and their bank accounts. It is not going to change the planet. And then we got scientists that came out today and said living near trees is more healthy. Well, hello. You know, God created the perfect planet. If they're trying to get rid of the carbon, God's just going to blow off more volcanoes and put the carbon back in. He wants his trees to be able to breathe. You do know trees inhale carbon dioxide, and they exhale nice, clean, pure oxygen. And that's what we inhale. So you get rid of the carbon, you get rid of the trees, you get rid of the people. It's a whole system. They're not going to get rid of the carbon. Even if they put carbon capture on all the power plants, all right? One volcano erupting, and it's going to put it all back in the air plus, because the trees need it. You're not going to grow trees unless you got carbon.
Well, they know that, and they like to say the opposite, what to do, the opposite of what you actually do. They like to say it, like Nancy Pelosi, and they ask her, hey, what do you think about all those sanctuary cities that, you know, Mexican being deported 19 times or however many times he was, 5 times,
7.
and then killing somebody? She says, well, that just tells me that we have to have more gun control.
Gun control?
Yeah, that's what
the guy didn't get the gun legally.
Doesn't matter.
The guy didn't get the gun legally. He stole it from a Fed. Or someone stole it from a Fed.
That is my point. They don't give you a solution to the problem. They just infuriate you using their agenda again. You know, so you're never going to get a real answer from these freaks.
The dead girl was already disarmed. It didn't help her. She's dead. She didn't have a weapon. The illegal, who had been deported multiple times, who said he found a gun, but then he said he went there to shoot sea lions, which is also illegal. So he didn't find the gun. He stole the gun. Or somebody stole the gun, and he acquired it from them. That gun belonged to a BLM agent. It was stolen in San Francisco out of this agent's personal car in June, according to the reports. But, you know, I don't even know what to believe. It was probably a Fast and Furious gun for all the hell we know.
Yeah, they probably gave it to him. You know, hey, go kill some white people. We'll blame it on guns.
Yeah, well, that girl didn't have a weapon. So how was gun control going to help her?
Well,
you know, they always tell us how they're gonna disarm the normal people. They don't tell you how they're going to disarm the criminals. They're not going to disarm criminals. All right? Every time there's a shooting, if you didn't do it and your gun didn't do it, stop taking the blame for it. Stop being idiots. All right? It's time for some straight talk here, folks. If you didn't do it, it's not your fault. Keep your gun.
You're not going to get any logic or straight talk out of Democrats, especially like Pelosi and types. They're not in it to tell the truth. You know, even she, do you know she actually came out one time and said, well, it's not against the law to lie.
True.
So, you know,
yep.
when you have
and then the Supreme Court made that official. They can even put propaganda on TV.
Yeah. The Supreme Court made that official. Doesn't that say it all right there?
Mm-hmm. And, of course, the Congress and the Senate and the White House, they exempt themselves from all their laws. So, Obama doesn't think he has to follow any laws.
You know,
Any law
that's
they
why
make, it's only for you, not them.
That's why Pelosi got in there, you know, with 22 million, and now she's worth 200. You know, I mean, it's great insider trading.
Yep, they made it
them.
legal. That's
Nothing
right.
for you,
they could
boy,
insider trade.
You know? But if you're Martha Stewart, you made a $10,000 error, prison you go.
Well, she's not a congresswoman. Had she
That's
been
right.
a congresswoman, she wouldn't be in jail.
Oh, that would have been a bribe just to get in the door. That's you know, Trump probably paid that just to go to the party. Probably $10,000 a plate.
Yep. Exactly. And you know this San Francisco thing with this murderer, right? They're all, you know, when the feds were pointing at San Francisco, saying, well, it was San Francisco's fault, not the federal fault. Well, who represents San Francisco? Dianne Feinstein, Pelosi, Kamala Harris, Mayor? So that's who he's blaming? All Democrats, every one of them.
Franken Feinstein.
Yeah, so they...
you know, she's something else, too. You know, she admits that when she was getting threats that she didn't leave home without, you know, her gun in her purse. But everybody else, but if she would have had the votes, she would have went for it. She would have said, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in. Except for her, of course, because she wanted hers in her purse to make sure that, you know.
Well, you know, the sheriff department who actually cut the guy loose, this sheriff, his name is like Micoranian or something. He's half Iranian. And now this illegal, he killed a woman. He abused a woman. But so did the sheriff. He didn't kill her, but he beat the stuffing out of his wife, beat her bloody. She sent pictures by way of text to her next-door neighbor saying, you know, look what he just did to me. He was able to get that thrown out of court, get that evidence suppressed. So this guy, he took a plea deal, and he only had to do some community service. He pled down to a misdemeanor. That's the police chief in San Francisco. So he's not going to be protecting women. He smacks them around. He didn't give a damn that woman was killed. He's sticking to the liberal program, no matter what. He only sees it as a glitch. And then the White House, then they come out and say they're not going to comment on the San Francisco murder. But then they point the finger at Pelosi and Feinstein and the mayor and Kamala Harris and the police chief.
No,
everything's so messed up, guys. Everything is messed up.
Look what they did to the Mexicans that were having White Appreciation Day. I mean, they almost ran him out of business. He had White Appreciation Day, and it was a big hit. You know? Yeah,
sure. He got hit all right. You can't appreciate white people. White people are the scourge of the earth now. Not that you had any say in being white or black or Hispanic or Asian or anything. They just think you might have had a personal opinion on it. You know, nobody asked me what I wanted to be. That's all I got to say. You know, it's not there. Now, 500,000 illegals got Social Security numbers. And this is on top of what's going on in San Francisco. This is 500,000 more of them. And Jeff Sessions had asked about it, and they finally admitted it, and they said that by the end of fiscal year 2014, we had issued approximately 541,000 original Social Security numbers to individuals authorized to work under the DACA Act. Now, here's these people with Social Security numbers. This was a year ago. How many of them have become Americans since then? Probably none. I saw a guy on television the other night. He was an illegal. He said, I've been here 20 years. I went to school here. I went to college here, and I work here. And you're going to throw me out? I wanted to kick the TV. You've been here 20 years, and you found our schools, and you found our places of employment, and you found everything else you needed except an immigration office. You don't want to be an American.
Why would you want to be?
Cry to me.
Why would you want to be? Why would you want to be? You get everything for free. You can drive drunk. If you're thrown in jail, they let you go right away. You can kill people. You can, rape children.
Rape,
You
ravage,
can,
pillage.
Like, what are they going to do? Deport you? And 5 minutes later, you're crawling back over? I mean, why not? Why would you want to become an American? So all your rights get taken away?
There's a prison
I don't know.
There's a prison in Kingman, Arizona that's been having riots. It's a private prison, as a matter of fact. Well, we can talk about that. But this prison population, 70% of the inmates are illegals from Mexico. Now, you know damn well they're not in prison because they were good boys, because they wouldn't be in prison. They're not going to put you in jail for nonviolent crimes, for drunk driving, for marijuana or whatever. They're not putting people in jail for that. These people are the worst of the worst.
They're putting white people in jail for that. They're putting white people in jail for that.
They're not putting illegals in jail for that. They're cutting them loose for that.
No, not illegals. No, of course not illegals.
So these are all violent criminals. 70% of the population is illegal Mexicans. 6% are illegals from other countries. And then the balance are Americans. So they've been rioting. And that's what brought it to my attention. Now they've had to, Pinal County's taken 350 of them. There was about 1,000 of them in the riot. But now they're closing that prison and moving all the inmates. They couldn't control them. It's all prison gangs and whatever, but, 70% is illegals. And these are the ones they can't release because they're criminals. Although Obama did pull the biggest prison break in history. He let over 30,000 of them out. And, yeah, they were murderers and rapists and robbers and whatever other, class of criminal that they had incarcerated. He just cut them loose. Let them out in the streets of America. Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, that's why they don't find an immigration office, because who's going to arrest them for it? Nobody. Why would you? What's the incentive? There's no incentive.
Yeah. Well, they got a $1.3 billion immigration slush fund, too. Jeff Sessions had a subcommittee meeting in March, and he discovered the $1.3 billion slush fund and a lot of nefarious things going on with the money, too. They accumulated this reserve fund of unexpected revenues, and now it's $1.2 billion. And the agency has a policy to maintain a reserve balance of $600 million. So where'd they get the extra money? Shaking down banks? And it's for use by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. And there is no specifications on what they want to use it for or what they're mandated to use it for. It also says that the USCIS extends humanitarian protection to refugees, both within and outside of the United States. So this $1.3 billion slush fund that they got robs the taxpayers, but now they're even taking care of refugees outside the country with it. Isn't that called foreign aid? And we got slush funds. We want to cut 40,000 of our military, but we have a $1.3 billion slush fund to take care of refugees abroad and illegal immigrants here.
They're not cutting the military for cost reasons, though. They're cutting the military because they don't need them anymore.
No, because we're going global military.
Right, they're going to shift all the military that there is. It's going to be shipped to a global military, but they ain't going to need very many of those either because of this software on that computer and making all the decisions that commanders used to make.
Right, exactly. But our military is going to be under the command of a foreign entity. That, my dear friends, is treason. We are a sovereign nation. No other nation has jurisdiction over us unless we capitulate to them. And we, as American people, are not standing up. These scavengers and scoundrels are calling themselves revolutionaries. Do you know what this revolution is going to do to you? This isn't a revolution to free you from tyranny like the first one, ladies and gentlemen. This is to put the yoke of global communism around your throat. You are surrendering the United States of America, her sovereignty and her history, to a global governance and a global economy. You're selling off pieces of the country. You're selling the water in the Great Lakes to China. You're selling land in Nevada and in New Mexico and up in Montana to China. You're selling uranium mines to Russia, and you're being told you cannot mine there, and your half. We're selling iridium. We're selling copper. We've sold our gold mines. All to foreign entities. Wasn't Americans buying all this stuff? We sold our ports to the Arabs and the Chinese. We got Russian bombers flying over us with authority, and Arabs flying over us with authority. You see, Microsoft lays off 18,000 people, but it's demanding H-1B visas to bring in foreign workers. Why do we need foreign workers when you just laid off 18,000 domestic workers? You see what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? On that note,
they've been getting away with treasons for so long. Why would they stop?
You're right.
Even during World War II, you had Prescott Bush funding the Nazis.
Yeah.
That's not a conspiracy theory. Just look it up.
It's a fact.
It's
absolutely
unbelievable.
A fact.
They were told to leave certain companies alone, and they did. Why they helped the Nazis and the top six, whatever, how many families made money off both sides. They do it all the time. They did it with the Civil War even. Mm-hmm. These people get rich off war and they make zero during peace. And you wonder why we've been, this world's been in war ever since it was created.
Just think, if we keep letting them erase history, it's going to be illegal for you to even say that on air. People don't understand. People just don't understand what the fallout of this actually is. They're silencing you, and they're using political correctness to do it. They're putting you in a cage and telling you to sit down and shut up, and we're going to do what we want. And if you dare open your mouth, we're coming after you with guns blazing, with everything we have. And we got a bunch of Soros bucks to do it with. On that note, we got to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to pick up this conversation because I have a whole lot more to go. We'll be right back.
You are listening to Freedomizer Radio, where freedomizers freedomize freedom.
All right, everybody, we're back. I'm Joanne Moretti. My great co-host Scott Ferrarello is with me, and you're listening to Zone 13 right here at freedomizerradio.com. We also have our wonderful colleagues, Lynn, AstroTurf, and Anna in our chat rooms, putting the links and documents and everything that we're talking about in there. So please say hi to everybody when you get over there. All right. Anything you want to bring up, my dear?
Nah, go ahead.
All right. Let's talk about Eric Holder for a second. Everybody said Eric Holder. Yep, Eric Holder was going to return to Covington. We said Eric Holder was going to return to Covington and Burling. Everybody else said, no, he's going to go to Goldman Sachs. He's not going back. And we've told everybody throughout the whole Obama administration with Holder there about Covington and Burling and how their clients are Wells Fargo and Bank of America and HSBC and all of these big banks. We also told everybody about the Libor scandal and the manipulating currency, and finally all the big banks admitted to it. We told everybody about Bank of America and how they were laundering drug cartel money. And, again, these are all clients of Covington and Burling. So when people began asking, well, how come none of these bankers are going to jail? Folks, you cannot prosecute your former clients. Of course nobody's going to jail. So what they did was they make these little side deals, and they want to make it look like, they're doing something and they're really prosecuting crime. And then the banks make these great big settlements to Holder. Holder takes the money and puts it over with the Acorns and with this slush fund for the illegals and whatever else he feels like doing with this settlement money. None of it goes back into the Treasury to pay down our debt or anything like that, or, help us out in any way. No, they consider that free money. So then the banks don't really have any consequences. The bank people that actually did the crime, they're home free. the customers, of course, will be paying off those settlements. So that's just like putting a tax on the bank's customers for the privilege of taking your money, holding your money for you. Well, now Holt is returning to Covington and Burling. And, their list, like I said, has included 4 of the largest banks, Bank of America, Citigroup, J.P. Morgan Chase, and Wells Fargo. And lobbying records show that Wells Fargo is still a client of Covington. And Covington recently represented Citigroup, too, over a civil lawsuit relating to the bank's role in the Libra manipulation. And they all admitted it. They were involved in this company called MERS, M-E-R-S, too, which was later responsible for falsifying mortgage documents on an industrial scale. The court records show that Covington in the late 90s provided legal opinion letters needed to create this on behalf of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So they even helped create this scam that built that mortgage bubble, and that's how Franklin Raines got away with it. Franklin Raines was dating Barney Frank at the time, who was the banking commission there in the Congress, and of course died, but he was literally dating Barney Frank. And now he's working for Hillary. He was up to his ears in that scandal.
He was dating Barney Frank?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, he was.
God.
They were an item for a long time. Barney Frank finally married some other guy. But, yeah, he was dating Franklin Raines for a long time. Let's talk about Hillary for a second. This Hillary thing is just getting me more and more angry. She talked to this reporter the other day, and the reporter actually was at a wedding of one of Hillary's people. So, here she is at a wedding with Hillary for Hillary's assistant, clerk, whatever he was, and he married his longtime lover. And this reporter is the one that got the first interview with her. And it, of course, was a fluff interview. It really didn't amount to much. She never answered any of the questions. She just, she even denied being subpoenaed. So yesterday, Trey Gowdy put out copies of all 3 of the subpoenas that he had sent her. 2 before she deleted, and 1 after she deleted the emails. And she said she never got them. That's a bunch of hooey.
Yeah, it all is.
Yeah, and then the media. They, I hear people, when I put articles out from alternative media, and I know damn well it's true because I've checked every bit of it before I put it out there, there's always somebody who says, well, that's not a reputable site. And I'll tell them it's all documented. The documents are there, the PDFs, the court documents, whatever. Well, it's not a reputable site. So I ask them, well, who's a reputable site? They say CNN or NBC or whatever.
Yeah, all the ones that aren't reputable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got a bad reputation.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doomed. Because unless Brian Williams tells you something, most of these sheep aren't going to believe it.
Right.
And they're all state-run media. That's why propaganda is so dangerous. That's why it was illegal for the longest time. That's why we used to make fun of Russia for their propaganda. Because that does more damage than a war does half the time. Why do you think they dump flyers on countries they're going to attack before they attack? It's propaganda. Because it gets people, it's winning over their mind or scaring them. Better get out now, we're coming.
Yeah, we're coming, all right. But you know what? Hillary showed us exactly how corrupt and how completely owned the media is. When she was walking down the street in that parade, and she had those reporters, all but one, she had those reporters all roped off like she was taking them off to auction them. She was leading them around, ha, 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 look at my chumps. I'm not going to answer a question. I got them all roped in like a cattle rustling. I got them lassoed and dragging them behind me. And they're taking it. See, folks, I'm the queen, and these are my minions. Those are peons, and they'll do exactly what I tell them to do. That couldn't have been a better indicator of the condition of our media than that optic right there. You know, everybody's talking about slavery. This chick looked like she was taking them off to auction. There was no more indicator, no more example of what slavery looked like than what she did to those reporters, and they aren't even smart enough to know it. Or maybe they are. And that was exactly the optics that we were supposed to see. We own you. We got you. You know, don't try to control the volume. Don't try to control the contrast. We own this. But there was one reporter who wasn't inside the ropes. Chris Matthews. He was walking down there beside the guy holding the rope, and he was carrying a purse.
Oh, man.
He was wearing
that's
a pink
what got
shirt.
me, too. He was even at Romney's, one of Romney's speeches, or it was some sort of, I think it was, Romney was like slamming the reporters, and Chris Matthews was sitting there yucking it up with him. I mean, it's all so phony. It makes me sick. The only people you can trust are alternative media, people that aren't getting greased by these politicians.
Well, what else got me about what Chris Matthews was doing? First of all, they went all off on Clarence Thomas for being a clown in blackface, and they would call each other Uncle Toms and stuff. Well, it looked to me like Chris Matthews was the Uncle Tom of that little charade of dragging those reporters around. He was the head reporter, but he was the good one. So he got to walk outside the rope as long as he kept the rest of them in line. See what I'm going with that? He was helping the master keep the slaves in line. Also, another thing that he said, he was fighting with Mitt Romney, and he said, well, the Republicans want the illegals because of the cheap labor. All these Republicans, they're all capitalists, and if you have these immigrants in there, then there's no competition, so they can keep the wages low. That's true. That's true. If you are an employer and you put an ad out that you're hiring somebody and you offer them $8 an hour and nobody shows up for the job, then you're going to have to sweeten the offer. But if you put a job offer out for $8 an hour and there's a whole parade of people out down the street and around the corner willing to take that job, there is no incentive for you to raise your offer. So Chris Matthews was right about that. And then he went on about the Democrats, and he said, and the Democrats want them because they want the votes. So they'll bring in as many as they want, and they'll give them whatever they want because they know they're going to vote for them. So that tells you right there, ladies and gentlemen, both parties are working against the United States of America in regards to illegal immigration. So you are screwed. And Chris Matthews didn't even know he illustrated that point. I'm telling you right here, they always tell you, though. They always tell you what they're doing. So the rope-a-dope thing was actually a very good indicator of what was going on. And that helped you see the bigger picture. And there it is, staring you in the face. Just like that picture I told you about Putin. That optic is staring you in the face, too. That's exactly what they wanted you to see. They wanted you to see her as the master. They wanted you to see Chris Matthews as a facilitator. They wanted you to see that those reporters are owned lock, stock, and barrel and were being dragged off in the streets like the slaves they are. All right, we got problems. Not that I just haven't listed a whole parade of horribles here.
We got problems, yes.
We got a problem. We got a real problem. We got a real problem with education. All right? Look, we're going to talk about gays now. And I'm sure everybody's going to cringe, and I'm probably going to get hate mail like I usually do when I talk about these things, but we're talking about it anyhow because I'm not afraid of hate mail. We have a gay teacher. He was promoting homosexuality to third graders, and he said he didn't care what the parents thought. This is from PCMD. A North Carolina elementary school teacher has resigned after his decision to read a gay-themed children's book to his third-grade class. And, of course, it led to a controversy in this town. It's called F-Land. Yeah, F-Land, F-Off. Omar Curry said he read the students the book King and King, a fairy tale about two princes having a love encounter after he perceived negative gay stereotyping in his class. What the hell does a third grader know about straight, gay, girls, boys, up, down? What do they know? That is child abuse.
You know, remember when they used to say, "No, don't say that in front of Johnny. I don't want you to warp his young mind." Well, that's what they do now. They openly warp young minds on purpose, and then they say things like, "Oh, I don't care if the parents don't care." You know what? You'd care when I was beating your head into the cement. If it was my kid, buddy, you'd care then, wouldn't you? I'd be the one saying, "Oh, hey, I don't care that you're bleeding to death, pal. I don't care that you're begging for your mommy, pal."
Well,
you know
what
you
this
treat
guy
my
did?
third grader like that. Sons of...
This guy tried to justify it. He said he was inspired to teach the little kids about two men hooking up because a boy in his class acted a little feminine. So what are you going to say? The kid's straight up gay? Straight? What difference does it make?
Yes,
what the kid grows up to be. It's not up to this teacher. He said, when I read the story, the reaction of parents didn't come into my mind. In that moment, it just seemed natural to me to read the book and have a conversation about treating people.
Sick people that do that to children. They're sick in the head, and they're in there getting paid to warp their minds. I wouldn't have my kid in a government-run indoctrination center if for anything. I just wouldn't do it.
This says the three parents put written complaints to the school review committee, and they upheld the use of the book, by the way. But the principal fired the guy. He resigned. He resigned. It says here. But parents felt that their children should be learning more important things like math, reading, and writing. Yeah. By the parents got the word that these children had been read that book, it was already too late. So it doesn't matter what the parents said after that, right?
Suing them something. There'd be a lawsuit. I tell you, there'd be so many lawsuits going on that they would make sure they never did that kind of thing again. But people just sitting back and take it.
Yeah, well, some people are gay, some people are straight, some people are somewhere in between. But that doesn't mean the rest of the class has to be.
I don't want heterosexuals talking to my third grader.
I don't want heterosexuals. I don't
about
want
anything
any sex to the kids.
Except coloring.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Reading,
There's
writing,
no place
arithmetic.
for that in the school. That is for the home.
Right. And, nobody has anything against gays. No one gives a damn who they marry. But you don't address one child's issues, whatever, might not even be an issue. Maybe the kid just is a little feminine. Who cares? Whatever he's going to be, he's going to be. It's not up to this teacher. And it's not up to this teacher to do social experiments on the kids.
This is what liberals do. Everything they touch turns to crap. They are changing comic books now. All the comic book characters now are gay or transvestites. Wonder Woman's a lesbian now. I mean, you know what? When I was reading comic books as a little kid, I did, okay, Peter Parker had a girlfriend. He gave her a peck on the cheek once in a while. You didn't know anything about any sort of orientation whatsoever, and I didn't want to know about any sort of orientation whatsoever. I just wanted them to beat up bad guys.
Well, now you have to hide
them, and they're doing this to screw your kid's mind up, and the earlier they can do it, the better.
Well, it's gotten to the point now where you have to hide your national pride. You have to hide your history. You have to hide your religion. And now you have to hide your sexuality if you're heterosexual. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the United States of America.
Sure.
Nobody should have to hide anything. Gays don't have to hide their gayness. Why do straights have to hide theirs? Christians shouldn't have to hide their religion. We have a First Amendment for that. But you're being attacked. The next goal is those crosses at Arlington Cemetery. They see that as the Holy Grail, man. They've been salivating over getting rid of those crosses. You can't have your 10 Commandments. What's the problem? We should address that too. We should say, okay, which one of the 10 Commandments do you have a problem with? And they're going to say, well, it's religious based, so all of them. Okay, so what's religious-based about don't steal? We do have laws against that. It's called larceny laws, right? So that doesn't sound religion-based. How about not murdering people? We have laws about that, too, that are not religious-based. So what's your point, pal? How about honor your mother and father? What, you want to smack your mother? You want to smack your father? What? You hate your mother? You hate your father?
I smack your mother.
You know, so what's the problem with that?
Nancy
You know, we got laws about that,
yes,
too.
I would. If it was Nancy, my mom was Nancy Pelosi, yes, I would slap her silly.
All right, honor the Sabbath. So you don't want a day off? Don't take a day off. Work through it. No one said you had to adhere to it, but you don't have the right to take it away from others who do. You know, you have a right to your liberty, but everybody else has a right to their own liberty, too. You cannot...
These are morality laws, though. They don't want any morality in this country, in world government. Why do you think there's so much immorality promoted? Why do you think Miley Cyrus is on TV? You know, it's all who can be more immoral, nasty piece of you know what? You know, like Madonna. She was one of the first ones to start it. Her and Cher.
Yeah.
You know how they vote all the time.
George Carlin says that the reason they don't want the Ten Commandments up there near the State House is because with all those lawyers inside, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not be infidelity, you know, commit infidelity, causes it to be a hostile work environment.
Of course, that's brilliant, and he was brilliant usually when he talked about that. You know, and he's right on the money. Just like when he talks about the club that we're not in. You know. There's a club that these politicians are in, and guess what? You're not in it.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to hear another jerk story, too, and this story is a complete lie. I'm telling you up front that there is nothing truthful about this story, but this is the story they want you to believe. It's from Breitbart. It says, secret White House gay wedding revealed. Before the White House was bathed in rainbow light to celebrate the Supreme Court's decision to legalize gay marriage nationwide, a secret gay wedding was conducted in the building by a former Obama speechwriter, John Lovett. Lovett, who worked for Obama during his first term, reveals that he used his White House privilege to sneak in a pair of gay men under the guise of giving them a tour, then performed a wedding ceremony in the Rose Garden without the knowledge of the president. We were very nervous. They were nervous because they were getting married. I was nervous because I snuck into my boss's house to perform a wedding against his wishes in his backyard, he said.
Yeah.
You can say what you will about the first same-sex marriage at the White House. At the very least, it was quite rude. And he was reveling in that. Lovett revealed the secret wedding of Justin and Steve during an Aspen Ideas Festival of the Moth Radio Hour podcast over the weekend. After the ceremony, Lovett says the gay men kissed modestly, and he filed the paperwork with the address 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Okay, nothing about that story could possibly be true. They're trying to get us to think that here's this guy who's a former speechwriter. The guy works for HBO now, and he was working for Comcast too, but he works for HBO. So now he's media. Now, his privilege to the White House is still in effect, so he can just waltz in at any time he wants, and he can bring in whoever he wants, and then he can conduct a gay marriage in the Rose Garden, and nobody notices. And then he used official address of the White House on an official document, a marriage license. So is he a notary, or, you know, did he perform the wedding allegedly? That's all BS, ladies and gentlemen. Every bit of it is a lie. That does not happen. There is a process you go through to even get inside that door. They don't just let anybody walk in and bring their friends and waltz around the place and hold weddings in the Rose Garden. The place has got more cops and feds and everything else, surveillance. The place is crawling with surveillance. That did not happen without the expressed permission of the White House, and you don't use the official White House address on an official document unless you have authority to do so. So don't believe it was a secret. It was a smack in your face. That was a slap to anybody who had a problem with all this gayness.
I'm surprised I didn't call it. Said it was Adam and Steve. To be like the Garden
Yeah.
of Eden at Barry's house. Adam and Steve.
Yeah.
And
True.
maybe Barry and
Yeah, it
Moochell
was Justin and
got
Steve.
their vows renewed legally this time.
Yeah. Well, if that's an official document with the address 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, you know damn well that was sanctioned by the resident of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, because you wouldn't do it without his permission. You don't sneak in. How come he's not under arrest for falsifying government documents? He didn't have authority to put that there, unless he did have authority, and they're all lying. They just wanted us to know there was a gay wedding there, and they wanted to kick you in the teeth with it, and they wanted you to think it was a secret, and it was pulled off behind Obama's back, because God forbid he gets blamed for anything. And on that note, we have to say goodbye, ladies and gentlemen. So, got any closing comments, Scott?
Nope, I don't. Good night, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Scott. All right, everybody, that's all the time we have for today. And thank you for tuning in. I hope I didn't make you all crazy too much. This is Zone 13. To all of our listeners, callers, and colleagues, thank you so much. As always, a special thank you to Scott Ferrarello, my awesome co-host. Stay tuned to freedomizerradio.com all week to keep up with the latest news and information you can actually use. And we'll see you here right the same time next week, Thursday, 3 p.m. On that note, Zone 13 out. We love you, America.